Okay, so I'm going to continue reading the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan's constitution, and I'm going to start doing it from their website now, the Afghan government website, and I'll probably start doing that with the constitutions that I read if I can, if their website is accessible, which I've never looked up a government's website that wasn't accessible. So on here, I haven't found a country that didn't have an accessible website for their government, So I'll read this thing they have here at the beginning. We've read the first two chapters of the Constitution in the preamble. But it says here, this is their website. It says, the present Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan was agreed upon by more than 500 delegates representing Afghan men and women from across the country at the Constitutional Loya Jirga, December 13, 2003, January 4 through 2004. The Constitution was formally ratified by President Hamid Karzai at a ceremony in Kabul on January 26, 2004. So I'm pretty sure January... I'm just going to read this. The full text of the Constitution may be found below. Note, this is an unofficial English translation of the Constitution. In any conflict between this and the original Dari Pashto Constitution, the Dari Pashto version shall take precedence. Basically saying if there's any mistranslation in this, that the Constitution that's written in Dari or Pashto is the correct version. So we're going to go ahead down to chapter 3 now. You read chapter 2. Let's go ahead and read chapter 3. Wherever it may be. It starts at Article 60. And it's going to be about the president. Chapter 3. The President. Article 60. The President shall be the head of the state of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, executing his authorities in the executive, legislative, and judiciary fields in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. The President shall have 2 vice presidents, first and second. The presidential candidate shall declare to the nation names of both vice presidential running mates. In case of absence, resignation, or death of the President, the first vice president shall act in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. In the absence of the first vice president, the second vice president shall act in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. Article 61. The President shall be elected by receiving more than 50% of votes cast by voters through free, general, secret, and direct voting. The presidential term shall expire on 1st of Jalza of the 5th year after elections. Elections for the new president shall be held within 30 to 60 days prior to the end of the presidential term. If in the first round none of the candidates gets more than 50% of the votes, elections for the second round shall be held within 2 weeks from the date election results are proclaimed, and in this round only 2 candidates who have received the highest number of votes in the first round shall participate. In case one of the presidential candidates dies during the first or second round of voting or after elections, but prior to the declaration of results, re-election shall be held according to provisions of the law. Article 62. The individual who becomes a presidential candidate shall have the following qualifications. Shall be a citizen of Afghanistan, Muslim, born of Afghan parents, and shall not be a citizen of another country. Shall not be less than 40 years old the day of candidacy. Shall not have been convicted of crimes against humanity, a criminal act, or deprivation of civil rights by court. No individual shall be elected for more than 2 terms as president. The provision of this article shall also apply to vice presidents. Article 63. Before assuming office, the president shall take, in accordance with special procedures set by law, the following oath of allegiance. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, I swear by the name of God Almighty, that I shall obey and protect the holy religion of Islam, respect and supervise the implementation of the Constitution as well as other laws, safeguard the independence, national sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Afghanistan, and in seeking God Almighty's help and support of the nation, shall exert my efforts toward the prosperity and progress of the people of Afghanistan. Article 64. The President shall have the following authorities and duties: supervise the implementation of the Constitution, determine the fundamental lines of the policy of the country with the approval of the National Assembly, being the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Afghanistan, declare war and peace with the endorsement of the National Assembly, take necessary decisions to defend territorial integrity and preserve independence, dispatch armed forces units outside of Afghanistan with the endorsement of the National Assembly, convene the Loya Jirga, except in the situation prescribed in Article 69 of this Constitution, proclaim as well as terminate the state of emergency with the endorsement of the National Assembly, inaugurate the sessions of the National Assembly and Loya Jirga, accept the resignations of vice presidents of the Republic, appoint the ministers, the Attorney General, the head of the Central Bank, the National Security Director, as well as the head of the Red Cross with the endorsement of the House of People and their dismissal and acceptance of resignation. Appoint the Justice of the Supreme Court as well as the Justices of the Supreme Court with the endorsement of the House of People. Appointing, retiring, and accepting the resignation and dismissal of judges, officers of the armed forces, police, national security, as well as high-ranking officials, according to the provisions of law. Appoint heads of political representatives of Afghanistan to foreign states, as well as international organizations. Accept credentials of foreign political representatives in Afghanistan. Endorse laws as well as judicial decrees. Issue credential letter for conclusion of international treaties in accordance with the provisions of the law. Reduce and pardon penalties in accordance with the provisions of the law. Bestow medals, insignias, as well as honorary titles in accordance with the provisions of the law. Establish commissions to improve the administration of the country in accordance with the provisions of the law. Perform other authorities and duties enshrined in this Constitution. Article 65. On important national, political, social, as well as economic issues, the President can call for a referendum of the people of Afghanistan. The referendum shall not be contrary to the provisions of this Constitution or require its amendment. Article 66. The President shall take into consideration the supreme interests of the people of Afghanistan to enforce the authorities enshrined in this Constitution. The President shall not sell or bestow state properties without the provision of the law. During the term of office, the presidential position shall not be used for linguistic, sectarian, tribal, and religious as well as party considerations. Article 67. In case of resignation, impeachment, or death of the President, as well as an incurable illness impeding performance of duty, the first Vice President shall assume authorities and duties of the President. The President shall personally tender resignation to the National Assembly. Affirmation of an incurable illness shall be verified by an authoritative medical team assigned by the Supreme Court in such cases. Elections for the new President shall be held within 3 months in accordance with Article 61 of the Constitution. The first Vice President, in acting as interim President, shall not perform the following duties: amend the Constitution, dismiss ministers, call a referendum. The Vice Presidents can, according to the provisions of this Constitution, nominate themselves as presidential candidates in the absence of the President. The duties of the first Vice President shall be determined by the President. Article 68. In case any of the Vice Presidents resign or die, another person shall be appointed by the President with the endorsement of the House of the People. In case of simultaneous death of the President and the first Vice President, the second Vice President and the President of the House of Elders, the President of the House of Representatives and the Foreign Minister shall succeed respectively, and in that order and according to Article 67 of this Constitution, shall assume the duties of the President. Article 69. The President shall be responsible to the nation as well as the House of People in accordance with the provisions of this article. Accusations of crimes against humanity, national treason, as well as a crime against the President shall be demanded by 1/3 of all members of the House of People. If this demand is approved by 2/3 of the House of People, the House of People shall convene the Loya Jirga within 1 month. If the Loya Jirga by 2/3 majority approves the accusation, the president shall be released from duty, and the issue shall be referred to a special court, which shall be comprised of the president of the House of Elders, 3 members of the House of People, and 3 members of the Supreme Court appointed by the Loya Jirga. The case shall be presented by the individual appointed by the Loya Jirga. In such a situation, the provisions of Article 67 of this Constitution shall be applied. Article 70. The salary and expenses of the president shall be regulated by law. The president, after completion of his term of service, except when dismissed, shall be entitled to financial benefits of the presidency for the rest of his life in accordance with the law. Chapter 4, the government. Article 71. The government shall be comprised of ministers who work under the chairmanship of the president. The number of ministers as well as their duties shall be regulated by law. Article 72. The individual appointed as minister shall have the following qualifications. Shall have only the citizenship of Afghanistan if the ministerial candidate has the citizenship of another country as well. The House of People shall have the right to approve or reject the nomination. Shall have higher education, work experience, as well as a good reputation. Shall not be less than 35 years of age. Shall not have been convicted of crimes against humanity, a criminal act, or deprivation of civil rights by a court. Article 73. The ministers shall be appointed from amongst members of the National Assembly or outside. If a member of the National Assembly is appointed as minister, that individual loses membership in the National Assembly, and instead another individual shall be appointed in accordance with the provisions of the law. Article 74. Before assuming office, the ministers shall take the following oath in the presence of the president. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, I swear in the name of God Almighty that I shall protect the holy religion of Islam, respect the Constitution and other laws of Afghanistan, safeguard the rights of citizens as well as independence, territorial integrity, and the national unity of the people of Afghanistan, and in all my deeds consider the Almighty's presence, performing the entrusted duties honestly. Article 75. The government shall have the following duties. Execute the provisions of this Constitution, other laws, as well as the final decisions of the courts. Preserve the independence, defend the territorial integrity, and safeguard the interest and prestige of Afghanistan in the international community. Maintain public law and order and eliminate every kind of administrative corruption. Prepare the budget, regulate financial conditions of the state, as well as protect public wealth. Devise and implement social, cultural, economic, and technological development programs. Report to the National Assembly at the end of the fiscal year about the task achieved as well as important programs for the new fiscal year. Perform other duties that in accordance with this Constitution and other laws fall within the government responsibilities. Article 76. To implement the fundamental lines of the policy of the country and regulate its duties, the government shall devise as well as approve regulations, which shall not be contrary to the body or spirit of any law. Article 77. The ministers shall perform their duties as heads of administrative units within the framework of this Constitution, as well as other laws prescribed. The ministers shall be responsible to the President and the House of Representatives for their specified duties. Article 78. If a minister is accused of crimes against humanity, national treason, or other crimes, the case, in accordance with Article 134 of this Constitution, shall be submitted to a special court. Article 79. During the recess of the House of Representatives, the government shall, in case of an immediate need, issue legislative decrees, except in matters related to budget and financial affairs. Legislative decrees, after endorsement by the President, shall acquire the force of law. Legislative decrees shall be presented to the National Assembly within 30 days of convening its first session, and if rejected by the National Assembly, they become void. Article 80. During their tour of duty, the ministers shall not use their positions for linguistic, sectarian, tribal, religious, or partisan purposes. Chapter 5, National Assembly, Article 81. The National Assembly of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, as the highest legislative organ, shall manifest the will of its people as well as represent the entire nation. Every member of the Assembly, when voting, shall judge according to the general interests as well as the supreme benefits of the people of Afghanistan. Article 82. The National Assembly consists of two houses, House of People and House of Elders. No individual shall be a member of both houses at the same time. Article 83. Members of the House of People shall be elected by the people through free, general, secret, and direct balloting. The work period of the House of People shall terminate after the disclosure of the results of the elections on the 1st of Saratan of the 5th year, and the new Parliament shall commence work. The elections for members of the House of People shall be held 30 to 60 days prior to the expiration of the term of the House of People. The number of the members of the House of People shall be proportionate to the population of each constituency, not exceeding the maximum of 250 individuals. Electoral constituents, as well as other related issues, shall be determined by the elections law. The elections law shall adopt measures to attain, through the electoral system, general and fair representation for all the people of the country, and proportionate to the population of every province. On average, at least 2 females shall be the elected members of the House people from each province. Article 84. Members of the House of Elders shall be elected and appointed as follows. From amongst each provincial council members, 1 individual shall be elected by the respective council for a 4-year term. From amongst district councils of each province, 1 individual elected by our respective councils for a 3-year term. The remaining 1/3 of the members shall be appointed by the President for a 5-year term from amongst experts and experienced personalities, including 2 members from amongst the impaired and handicapped, as well as 2 from nomads. The President shall appoint 50% of these individuals from amongst women. The individual selected as a member of the House of Elders shall lose membership to the related council, and another individual shall be appointed in accordance with the provisions of the law. Article 85. The individual who becomes a candidate or appointed to the membership of the National Assembly, in addition to the completion of the conditions of the election, shall have the following qualifications. Shall be a citizen of Afghanistan or shall have obtained citizenship of the state of Afghanistan at least 10 years prior to candidacy date or appointment. Shall not have been convicted of crimes against humanity, as well as a crime or deprivation from civil rights by a court. Shall have completed 25 years of age on candidacy day for the House of People, and 35 years on candidacy day for the appointment for the House of Elders. Article 86. Elections credentials of members of the National Assembly shall be reviewed by the Independent Elections Commission in accordance with the provisions of the law. Article 87. Each of the 2 houses of the National Assembly at the commencement of their work period shall elect 1 member as president for the term of the legislature, and 2 members as first and second deputies, and 2 members as secretary and assistant secretary for a period of 1 year. These individuals shall form the administrative teams of the House of People, as well as House of Elders. Duties to the administrative team shall be determined by the regulations on internal duties of each house. Article 88. Each of the 2 houses of the National Assembly shall form commissions to study issues under discussion in accordance with the regulations of internal duties. Article 89. The House of People shall have the authority to establish a special commission on the proposal of 1/3 of its members to review as well as investigate the actions of the government. The composition and method of operation of the aforementioned commission shall be determined by the regulations on internal duties. Article 90. The National Assembly shall have the following duties: ratification, modification, or abrogation of laws or legislative decrees, approval of social, cultural, economic, as well as technological development programs, approval of the state budget, as well as permission to obtain or grant loans, creation, modification, and or abrogation of administrative units, ratification of international treaties and agreements, or abrogation of membership of Afghanistan in them. Other authorities enshrined in this Constitution. Article 91. The House of People shall have the following special authorities: decide about elucidation session from each minister in accordance with Article 92 of this Constitution. Decide on the development programs as well as the state budget. Approve or reject appointments according to provisions of this Constitution. Article 92. The House of People, on the proposal of 20% of all its members, shall make inquiries from each minister if the explanations given are not satisfactory. The House of People shall consider the issue of a no confidence vote. The no confidence vote on a minister shall be explicit, direct, as well as based on convincing reasons. The vote shall be approved by the majority of all members of the House of People. Article 93. Any commission of both houses of the Parliament can question any minister about special issues. The individual question shall provide an oral or written response. Article 94. Law shall be what both houses of the National Assembly approve and President endorses, unless this Constitution states otherwise in case the President rejects what the National Assembly has approved. The President shall send it back within 15 days from the date it was presented to the House of People, mentoring the reasons for rejection, and with expiration of the period, or if the House of People reapproves it, with 2/3 of all the votes. The draft shall be considered, endorsed, and enforceable. Article 95. The proposal for drafting law shall be made by the government or members of the National Assembly, or in the domain of regulating the judiciary. By the Supreme Court through the government, proposals for drafting the budget and financial affair laws shall be made only by the government. Article 96. If the proposal for drafting a law includes imposition of new taxes or reduction of state incomes, it shall be included in the work agenda of the National Assembly on condition the compensation source shall also be forecasted in the next text of the proposal. Article 97. Proposals for drafting laws shall be first submitted to the House of People by the government. The House of People shall consider the draft laws, including budgetary and financial affairs, as well as the proposal for obtaining or granting loans, and, after debate, either approve or reject as a whole. The House of People shall not delay more than 1 month the draft proposal. The House of People, after approving the proposed draft, shall send it to the House of the Elders. The House of Elders shall decide on it within 15 days in deciding about the proposed laws. The National Assembly shall give priority to treaties and development programs of the state that, according to the proposal of the government, require urgent consideration. If the proposal for drafting a law is made by 10 members of either of the two houses, it shall be, after approval of 1/5 of the House where it was initiated, included in the work agenda of that House. Article 98. The state budget and development program of the government shall be submitted through the House of Elders to the House of People along with its advisory views. The decision of the House of People shall be implemented without presentation to the House of Elders. After endorsement by the President, if for some reasons the budget is not approved before the beginning of the new fiscal year, the budget of the year before shall be applied pending the passage of the new budget. The government shall present during the fourth quarter of the financial year the budget for the next year, with a brief account of the current year budget to the National Assembly. The precise account of the previous year financial budget shall be presented to the National Assembly during the next 6 months, according to the provisions of the law. The House of People shall not delay approval of the budget for more than 1 month after receiving it and give permission to obtain or grant loans not included in the budget for more than 15 days. If the House of People during this period does not decide on obtaining or granting loans, the proposal shall be considered approved. Article 99. If during the sessions of the National Assembly, the annual budget or development program or issues related to the national security, territorial integrity, and independence of the country is under discussion, the sessions of the Assembly shall not end pending decisions of the matter. Article 100. If one house rejects decisions of the other, a joint commission comprised of an equal number of members from each house shall be formed to solve the difference. The decision of the commission, after endorsement by the President, shall be enforced if the joint commission does not solve the difference. The decision shall be considered rejected. In such a situation, the House of People shall pass it with 2/3 majority in its next session. This decision, without submission to the House of Elders, shall be promulgated once endorsed by the President. Article 101. No member of the National Assembly shall be legally prosecuted for reasons of voting or views expressed during performance of duty. Article 102. If a member of the National Assembly is accused of a crime, the responsible official shall inform the House of which the accused is a member, and the accused shall be legally prosecuted. In case of an evident crime, the responsible official shall legally pursue and arrest the accused without the permission of the house of which the accused is a member. In both cases, if the legal prosecution requires detention, the responsible official shall immediately inform the respective house and obtain its approval. If the accusation takes place during an assembly recess, the permission for arrest or detention shall be obtained from the administrative board of the respective house, and the issue shall be referred to the first session of the aforementioned house for decision. Article 103. The ministers can participate in the sessions of either house of the National Assembly. Either house of the National Assembly can demand the participation of the ministers in its session. Article 104. Both houses of the National Assembly shall convene their sessions concurrently but separately. Sessions of the two houses shall be held jointly under the following circumstances. When the legislative term or annual sessions are inaugurated by the President, when deemed necessary by the President. The President of the House of People shall preside over the joint sessions of the National Assembly. Article 105. The sessions of the National Assembly shall be open unless the President of the Assembly, or at least 10 members of the National Assembly, request their secrecy and the Assembly grants their request. No one shall enter the National Assembly building by force. Article 106. The quorum for voting of each house of the National Assembly shall be complete with the majority presence of members, and decisions shall be taken with the majority of votes of members present, unless this Constitution states otherwise. Article 107. The National Assembly shall hold 2 regular sessions annually. The term of both regular sessions shall be 9 months every year, and when needed, the Assembly shall extend its term. The extraordinary sessions of the Assembly during recess shall be convened by presidential order. Article 108. In case of death, resignation, and dismissal of a member of the National Assembly or disability or handicap, which impedes permanent performance of duty, the placement of the new representative for the remaining period of legislative term shall be in accordance with provisions of the law. Matters related to the presence and absence of members of the National Assembly shall be regulated by the Internal Duties Statute. Article 109. Proposals for amending elections law shall not be included in the work agenda of the National Assembly during the last year of the legislative term. Okay, so I think that'll be good for this chapter around. Next, we're going to read the chapter 6, the Loya Jirga. What number are we on? 109. Okay. So yeah, we'll have we'll do one more after this. We'll do one more video after this. We'll start reading chapter 6. And yeah. Awesome. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be next video we'll have, or the next Constitution reading we'll have we'll start at chapter 6 and talk about the Loya Jirga. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I might be pronouncing it wrong. If I am, I'm going to look up how to pronounce it correctly, and I'll say it this next chapter, hopefully the correct way. All right, thank y'all.